local citizen-made good, no? Is our keynote speaker. That's Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio.
Oh, wow.
So he's flying
Nako.
back to Davao.
Exciting.
Yes, we're working with the terrific journalist Carol Arguillas.
Yes,
no?
yes.
So and also with the very able staff of Ateneo de Davao. So yan, so tuloy-tuloy lang yung trabaho dun sa advocacy.
Yes.
So what do we do sa Consortium on Democracy and Disinformation? We try to inform the public. We try to talk about the information campaigns that we are all.
Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng pera. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, tulong at tulong. Ipag the Blue Eagle, galing giting at tigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan.
The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.
Good morning mga Katipuneros. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Yes, it's Wednesday. It's August 14, 2019. And of course, ngayon po ay kapistahan ni Saint Maximilian Kolbe. Isang napakamatapang na pare, lingkod ng simbahan. We know his story. And so before we begin, my dear friends, our program here at Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Dasal muna po tayo. And we ask, of course, for the help of Saint Maximilian Kolbe. Okay, a few quotations from Saint Maximilian Kolbe. He once said, "The real conflict is the inner conflict. Beyond armies of occupation and the extermination camps, there are two irreconcilable enemies in the depth of every soul: good and evil, sin and love. And what use are the victories on the battlefield if we ourselves are defeated in our innermost personal selves? He also said, let us remember that love lives through sacrifice and is nourished by giving. Without sacrifice, there is no love. And so we pray, my dear friends, in the spirit of Saint Maximilian Kolbe, his courage. Lord, I give myself to you. Dwell in my heart and conquer sin. May I share your victory with all people today. Amen. And the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, nice words. Without sacrifice, there is no love. That's from Saint Maximilian Kolbe. Good morning, mga Katipuneros, and of course, we greet all the Athenians. Today is the first day of classes sa college po, ano? So, kaya medyo matraffic dito sa Katipunan. Okay, so ayan, pasensya na po. August 14 today is the first day of classes sa college. Okay, so hindi nyo pa nakikita ang aking guest kasi nasa out of the siya. Okay, isa pong napagaling idol natin na mga Atenista, but parang nasa transition siya ngayon. Ano? We were able to interview him once, but let me introduce a well-respected, well-renowned writer from the Philippine Daily Inquirer. So he has a column there, regular column, I think twice or thrice a week. Once a week. Okay, so, and then of course, he is also I don't know if he's still the editor of Online. Hindi na. Okay, so he will tell us, marami po siyang transitions ngayon po, So, without further ado, my dear friends, we are proud for our alumni, one of our alumni, distinguished alumni, Mr. John Nery. Good morning po.
Good morning, Father Nono.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Hindi ka na traffic. Traffic eh.
Medyo.
Di ba? First day of class.
First day of class.
Yes, ng college. Naalala mo pa ba nung na-college ka?
Oo, naalala ko pa.
60 years ago?
And also because you were talking about transitions.
Yes.
I will be joining the
faculty.
The faculty.
Wow.
Ateneo. So tomorrow is my first class.
Oh, great.
Next week I will have a second class. Yeah.
So ano yan, journalism? What will you be teaching?
Okay. So I'll be teaching political communication every Tuesday, and editorial and opinion writing every Thursday. Yung editorial and opinion writing, yun talaga that's my discipline as a journalist.
Yes, yes.
The entire time I was in the Inquirer, from 2001 to 2017, I was writing editorials. Of course, on behalf of the newspaper. And since 2007, I have been writing a column. So yun talaga yung craft ko, so to speak. And I am looking forward to sharing the little I know with my students. The other class naman is political communication kasi karamihan ng mga sinusulat ko tungkol sa politika.
Yes, yes.
It should be interesting. Should be an interesting course for communication. It's an elective for communication and political science.
Oh, galing. Wow. Pero aside from that, of course, you're doing other things on the side, right? You're involved in this yung fake news, how to combat fake news.
That's right. Thanks for bringing that up. So I belong to the Consortium on Democracy and Disinformation. And we have another forum coming up next weekend in Davao. Yeah, Ateneo de Davao through Father Joel Tabora is hosting.
Can I say where it all began? No, just kidding. Just kidding.
It should be a very interesting discussion. I'm happy to say that local citizen made good, is our keynote speaker. That's Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio.
Oh, wow.
So he's flying back to Davao.
Exciting.
Yes, we're working with the terrific journalist Carol Arguillas.
Yes.
So we're and also with the very able staff of Ateneo de Davao. So yan, so tuloy-tuloy lang yung trabaho dun sa advocacy.
Yes.
So what do we do sa Consortium on Democracy and Disinformation? We try to inform the public. We try to talk about the information campaigns that we have all been suffering from. We try to understand what's happening.
Yes.
We try to understand why it's working, and then we focus on what we can do.
Yeah.
We can, the little things that we can do to solve the problem. That includes fact checking.
Yes.
And something that I call critical feeling.
Critical feeling.
Yes.
Hindi critical thinking. Critical feeling.
Thinking is important.
Okay.
Kasama talaga doon. So we need to understand, for instance, why a certain piece of disinformation applies or appeals to our cognitive biases. Right? So we should understand that. That's part of the process. But we cannot stop there because for many people, for many of us, we accept certain things, misinformation or disinformation, even though we know that logically they don't make sense.
Yes.
But they are appealing to something deeper, to our emotions.
Correct.
So wala na siya sa level of cognition, sa level of emotion. Yun yung, so for lack of a better term, parang we need to also have some sort of attitude of critical feeling. Just because galit ako, sasangayin na ako dun sa
Like, I've always kumbaga been confused over mga pare na nagsusuporta ng EJK. But there are some priests.
Yes, unfortunately.
Diba?
Yes, so,
just because they see how drugs are affecting the community they serve, diba? How it's destroying the families, etc., etc. Pero still, diba? EJK is killing.
That's right. So I guess in those instances, hindi na siya parang the level of logic.
Oo, tsaka inaral namin yan, thou shall not kill. Pero,
on the level of emotion.
Pero John, again, contextualizing John Nery, di ba? So talagang except for that column, you have divulged na your interests from the Inquirer, ganun ba yun?
So I retired from the Inquirer last November.
Divested pala, that's the word,
But I will be working on journalism related initiatives in Ateneo. So
kasi pag nababanggit ko yun I understand si John is no longer with the Inquirer except for that column. Sabi niya, bakit? Binenta na ba ang Inquirer? Bakit?
Oh, no. No, the Inquirer is still continuing to do good work. Of course, it is facing a lot of pressure.
Yes,
but
yes.
I'm happy to say that many of my colleagues are still doing what needs to be done. No? For instance, for the longest time, I was with the opinion section. I'm very happy na opinion columns and our editorials are still trying to read the national situation the way it should be read. No?
Parang Inquirer na lang nga eh.
Hindi naman. May mga iba din. And I think it's important to reach out to different journalists. There are other news organizations under pressure, but there are journalists in those news organizations that who are doing good work and must be encouraged, must be supported. So marami din. Actually maraming especially the younger ones, no? Younger journalists. Nababahala talaga sila.
Yes.
Especially because for them this is the first time that they're facing something like this. For those of I wasn't a journalist during martial law years, but I was around at that time, and I knew what was happening. No? So even the phenomenon of self-censorship, dumaan na rin ng mga campus journalists noong panahon ni Marcos. Parang ikaw na mismo, hindi ko na ilalabas to. May mangyari. So that phenomenon. So there is some of that going on. But like I said, marami pa rin mga journalists who are doing the right things. They should be supported.
Lapit ko lang ng konti, no? Jan. Okay. So let's maybe we can we can start talking about what's happening. You are known to be very critical in your columns, of the Duterte administration. What are the bones of contention that you are pick against this government? Sige nga, isa-isahin mo nga.
Well, natanong na rin ako niyan more than once, no, in public forums. Am I anti-Duterte? And my answer is, no, I am pro-democracy. Nagkataon lang na lumalabas the signature policies of this administration are actually anti-democratic. I think there are three main issues. One has to do with killings. Regardless of the number of the official tallies, whether it's 5,000 something or the unofficial, whether it's 20,000 something, there's a lot of killing has taken place, and that is something that we cannot deny. The problem is that these are mere suspects, and in this so-called war on drugs, dozens of innocents have already of the lives of dozens of innocents have already been claimed. No? May mga bata na 4 or 5 years old.
Na-interview ko yung Amnesty International, Philippines, 100 minors already killed in the drug war. Grabe.
But that's really terrible. I remember that just before the elections, Archbishop Antonio Ledesma of Cagayan de Oro issued a pastoral letter to his Archdiocese of Cagayan de Oro, saying, okay, looking at the statistics compiled by the Redemptorist priest Father Picardal, the Davao Death Squad had, within a certain period, 1988, I think, to 2010 or something like that, had also claimed dozens of children's lives. And for that reason alone, Archbishop Ledesma said, we have to think long and hard about this is someone who deserves our vote as Catholic voters, no? So yun yung unang issue talaga, no? So the killings.
Okay.
And the killings have changed our society. I think I'm
I'm
afraid that from a nation of martyrs, we are turning into a country of killers. No? We haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'm afraid that at a certain point, we will no longer look at the sacrifices that our parents go through, that our OFWs go through, kasi martir. So, we don't see that anymore as ennobling. In fact, titingnan natin yung mga, okay, nakalamang eh. Ayan, malaking bahay niyan kasi tumanggap ng regalo kahit bawal. Nakalagay mismo sa batas natin, tumanggap, no? So I'm afraid that we are normalizing what used to be normal.
That's the word, normalizing. Meron kaming we just had a meeting. Remember last year, you were our speaker. All the Jesuits, di ba? So merong isang Jesuit na based siya sa province, sa Bukidnon, and very innocently sinabi niya yun na nagugulat daw siya how 3 years has changed the Filipinos. Na dati sa where he works sa Bukidnon, may mamatay lang na isa, the whole community would be abuzz. 'Di ba? Yung parang ano nangyari doon? Pero ngayon, ang daming namamatay, parang wala na. Parang everyone is numb, everyone is parang ayun nga, na-normalize na yung patayan, which is so strange, sabi niya. Parang ibang-iba na ngayon ang Pilipino, no? Parang hindi na scandalize with all these deaths.
And probably that is one of the most scandalous things about it. No? Wala na tayong capacity to scandalize. Nano-normalize nga.
Correct.
So isa talaga yan sa mga issues. Another issue has to do with the embrace of China, no? The pivot to China. Wala namang masama, no? If you look at the map, we all realize that China will definitely play a major role in our part of the world. Makikita mo lang sa mapa mismo. But it doesn't mean that we will bend over backwards. So for instance, yung the decision of the president 2 weeks into his presidency, actually 12 days into his presidency, the Arbitral Tribunal Award came down, sweeping a legal victory for the Philippines. And his instructions to the cabinet offer the Chinese a soft landing. Noong una, akala ko tama yung ginawa niya.
Parang diplomatic.
In other words, don't rub the Chinese face in. But ang nangyari is that yung soft landing parang naging beachhead na. No? Ang dami nang nangyayari ngayon, no? Na nakakabahala talaga, no? So yun yung second issue. And my third issue with the Duterte administration has to do with the rehabilitation of the Marcoses.
Yes.
I mean, can you just imagine, nagkaroon ng decision ang Sandigan Bayan finding Imelda Marcos guilty of graft. Just a few months ago. It's a bailable crime.
Yeah.
So she has a lot of money. She could have just been arrested and then filed. But the police refused to even arrest her. Tinanong yung mga leader ng police, sabi nila, parang
matanda na, ganun ba?
matanda na, parang humanitarian excuses, and doon ka magtataka talaga. I mean, wala namang masama if, very, very gently, she's escorted to the precinct, then her thumbprints are taken, wala namang, you can do that, pwedeng wagpakita sa publiko, but the law has to be followed. In this case, the police actually said, we opt not to follow the law.
Wow.
No?
Wow.
Sa tingin ko, yun ang pinaka malaking senyas na the Marcoses have been rehabilitated. So, there are other issues, but I think those are the three main issues na why I have been critical of the Duterte administration.
What about his yung authoritarian tendencies as manifested in yung martial law? Martial law in Mindanao, 3 years old na, and then every time na may kaguluhan, like the ongoing killings in Negros, ang laging tinatanong ng mga tao, magma-martial law ba dyan? Tapos dito sa Luzon naman, di ba parang you're not bothered by that, na yung martial law sa Mindanao?
Definitely. There is no basis for continuing the imposition of martial law in Mindanao, and I am really sorry to see the Supreme Court bending over backwards just to allow the martial law to continue in Mindanao. Even the president's own daughter has started saying, martial law is not good for business. No, people.
Oh, really? Si Sarah?
Sarah has said a couple of times. Businessmen have been telling me that it's not good for business.
Yeah.
Totoo nga naman. Why only Mindanao? I have a little. I've met the president 3 times. No?
Wow.
Before he became president. And my impression is that he's actually conflicted about the use of power. There's a part of him that wants to be like a Marcos. When he first showed up in the Inquirer in August 2015, he was talking about federalism and so on. Of course, he was testing the waters for a presidential run. He already introduced Salvador Panelo. He said, he's my point man. We are studying a constitutional dictatorship.
Wow.
He was already saying that, no? He was saying that the powers of the presidency are actually not strong enough for us to be able to do what needs to be done. But on the other hand, meron din siyang mga sinasabi, meron siyang ginagawa, which makes you wonder, is that other side of him, only is he only acting?
Or maybe it's part of a strategy na, 'di ba, strong man tapos biglang pat on the back, or 'di ba yung hinay-hinay, 'di ba? To confuse us.
It's possible, although my sense is that even up to now, 3 years after he became president, he is still feeling his way around the military.
Yes. That's obvious.
For instance, October 2016, he says, I declare my independence from the United States. Wala nang war games, no more military exercises. And yet, the military exercises continue. Why is that? Because whether he likes it or not, the structure of the military is built in such a way that cooperation with the U.S. military is the pathway to promotion. No? If there are
talaga.
military exercises, the ones who are in charge of the units at the time, that's a big thing.
Ayun pala yun. I didn't know that.
If the officers show exceptional promise, they are sent to officer school in the US.
Okay.
There's a little something like that also going on with PNP. No? The best ones get to train with FBI in Quantico. So there is that kind of dynamic. But in PNP, there is no question that the president controls it.
Yes. In his pockets na.
Yes. In AFP, there is still some room for doubt in the minds of the president and his inner circle. No? For instance, about a year and a half ago, when the notion of a revolutionary government was raised by an assistant secretary of the ILG, the armed forces issued a statement saying we cannot support a revolutionary government because it is outside the constitution.
Correct.
It's very clear. So it might partly be because of that. No, he is trying to see up to what point this military, which has learned the lessons of professionalism, very, very dearly. Kasi dati, nung sila mismo nag-aaway-aaway, now they wanna avoid that
Pero di ba, pagkulang siya ng cabinet secretary, ang ina-appoint niya lagi military, ex-general.
Maybe that's part of this whole process.
Yeah.
He certainly thinks that when you give someone, a military man, an order, that man will carry it out. Which is actually belied by what happens when sometimes he gives orders and they're not followed by the military. So, for instance, he has long wanted the military to be part of his so-called war on drugs. But except for token units, the AFP has refused.
That's not their work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he has always wanted them to take part in his number one policy initiative, the war on drugs. But they give excuses and. Well, they're the right excuses. That's not part of their job.
Yeah.
So there are also instances when he gives orders and the orders are not followed.
Yeah.
No? So that could be. We can understand that as part of this whole process of trying to support the military, trying to get them to be comfortable with it.
What about his what he did sa Supreme Court, of course, through Kalida, he has consolidated powers around the executive department, di ba? Parang defanged other institutions that should be responsible for the check and balance, like the Supreme Court, the Congress, supermajority, nasa kanya na. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, it is unfortunate that he has the Supreme Court in his hands.
Yeah.
There are maybe a few, maybe 4 independent justices left. It's a real pity.
Yeah.
The reason why the administration moved from the impeachment of Sereno to the quo warranto proceeding was when it was happening, when they were looking at the Senate, I think they realized that they possibly did not have enough votes. No, you needed at least 8, I think, to acquit Sereno, and there were at least 8 that they could count who were not sold. That's the reason why they moved to quo warranto.
Yes.
So they were able to push that. I'm no lawyer, but there are other lawyers. There are lawyers who think that
the deans of law schools were against it. Yeah.
I brought that up because that was the Senate then. The Senate now is we still have to see, but I think that it is much more under the control of President Duterte now than the previous Senate. So even in the previous Senate, on paper, the administration had the supermajority.
Yeah.
But now, you'll have to see whether with the addition of the likes of Bongo and De La Rosa, the president will be able to impeach anyone.
Anyone is in
and
danger.
And that will start with Vice President
Lenny.
So that's a thing. It's not only impeaching the Vice President. It's also possible for the Senate. I didn't realize this until I read up on the rules. It's also possible for the Senate to expel a member So that is also a possibility for that
Leila de Lima.
Senator Leila de Lima must consider.
Wow.
Kailangan talaga tutukan yung Senado.
Okay. Speaking of Vice President Lenny, what about the opposition? Or, di ba, yung hindi naman pwedeng sabing resistance groups, ano? But parang natahimik na.
Well, the opposition, they were swept in the national races, right? For the first time since, I think, 1957, I'm not sure of the exact date, none of the opposition candidates won a Senate race.
Grabe.
Although Senator Bamakino came very close. Part of the reason for that was the infighting among opposition candidates. But another reason was the administration really went all out. For their candidates. So at that level, it seems as if the opposition is now defanged, to use a word that you had used earlier. But if you look at the local races, it's actually more complicated than that. So for instance, Inday Sara's regional party, Hugpong, was backed mainly by two politicians, Florendo and Del Rosario, Governor Del Rosario and Congressman Florendo. They were the main financiers. Tony Boy Florendo was a good friend of former Speaker Alvarez until they had a falling out. But what happened to these two? Former Speaker Alvarez beat Governor Del Rosario in a landslide.
Wow.
For the congressional seat. Tony Boy Florendo was beaten, I forget now the name of the one who beat him, also in another landslide. What is my point? My point is that if the funders, the main financiers behind Inday Sara's Hugpong could not even win in their own bailiwick, what does that mean? It means that the political situation is much more fluid than just looking at the
so at least as far as the local
would lead us to think. But marami talagang nangyari, and I think it will be so. Even now, even with the unprecedented anointment of Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano as Speaker of the House.
Wow.
Meron parang mga sa
you wrote about that
sa Congress. Meron pala talagang mga kasi there are three factions there. And the reality is Speaker Cayetano was the weakest of the candidates. He could not have won on his own. No? The one who could have won on his own was Romualdez, backed by Arroyo. The forces of the president, the two Duterte factions, were split. You had Velasco and then you had Cayetano. And it had to take the president to say, no, there's a term sharing arrangement. Alan will go first. Lord Alan will follow. But even after the president said that, hanggang ngayon, meron pa rin
kaluskus.
Meron pa rin, no? So, what I'm saying is, the politics is much more complicated than just the opposition was swept at the national level.
But that's good. But it appears that, for example, this case against this for bishops and priests and the opposition party, it seems that the government is still after the opposition forces, diba?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Kasi kalokohan talaga itong Bicoy case na ito.
Kalokohan talaga. I think first of all that we should keep mentioning the four bishops because this is unprecedented. There have been similar cases filed against opposition politicians, never against bishops. Bishops of the Catholic Church. In this case, you have an archbishop, two bishops, and one retired bishop, plus four
priests,
3 priests and one Christian brother. I think that more and more people should realize that this is really an attempt to wipe out not just the opposition, but potential sources of opposition.
Yeah.
Weird lang. So, sinama nila 7 of the 8 diretso candidates.
But na-single out si Marojas?
Hindi ko nga alam ba't hindi kasama si Mar. No? And then they included some of the lawyers. No? Tapos sinama nila yung 8 clergymen. And I think that, first of all, I think it's important to separate the clergy from the rest. So you have the opposition politicians. Totoo na, aminado naman talaga sila. They're in the opposition. They've said some things that have been critical. That's their role in our democracy. Right? In our narrowing democratic space, that's their role.
They're not hiding, di ba?
That's right. Yeah. Yung clergymen, wala silang ginawa na can be classified as opposition politics. No, si Bishop David goes out of his way to mourn with the victims and the families of the victims of EJ case.
Yes.
Is that opposition tactics? Di ba? No? So iba talaga sila, no? Iba. Then if you mix them together, which is what the government is doing, it's to taint the church as opposition.
Yes.
Pero I was in I was in 2 forums recently, one in Cebu, one in Cubao. I was struck by some things. Of course, this is anecdotal, no? But these are people who are apolitical. Ang lalim ng sama ng loob nila. Sabi nila, bakit nila sinama yung mga obispo? So those 2 guys, very different. In fact, one of them voted for Duterte. Pero mas malakas yung hatak ng Catholic faith niya. Yan ang tanong sa akin. Bakit nila sinama yung mga obispo? Kalokohan naman yan. Parang gano'n. The guy from Cebu even said, I think they're making a terrible mistake. This might be a mistake that will really cost them. So, it is in the interests of the administration to just lump the church and the opposition together. Parang, no? It is important for us to separate them and say, iba yung ginagawa ng mga clergy. Iba yung ginagawa ng opposition politicians. If at certain times they, their interests converge, it's because it's for democracy, for the support of
for truth, for justice.
Exactly. No? But we need to be able to help people separate the roles of those 2 forces, so to speak. Pero nakakabahala.
But it's so obvious, there's a clear pattern here. Like, simbahan, because some bishops are critical because of the EJK nga, di ba? And then, of course, you have the opposition party. That's their work, sabi mo nga, no? But what about media? He has run after the media as well. Rappler, for a while, Inquirer, now ABS-CBN. Di ba? Parang, isn't the pattern very clear enough? Di ba?
It is, in fact, very clear, no? I was explaining to a foreign journalist before that I think that the president's approach to almost anything is yung sample, making an example of something. So tinakot niya yung business community. 16,
yes.
When he threatened to bring down thunder, lightning and thunder on Phil Webb. No? Sinabi niya, wala akong bilib sa online gaming and so on. Nung bumagsak yung presyo ng stocks ng Phil Webb, lost 75% of its value, binenta ni Bobby Ongpin, no? To Greggy Araneta, who is married to Irene Marcos. The day after, or a couple of days after, the president said, wala naman talaga akong wala naman talaga problema sa online gaming, kailangan i-regulate and so on. That example, that sample, no, really struck the fear among businessmen. Ganon din ang ginagawa niya sa media, no? Trying to put the fear of God or whoever in journalists, no? By attacking the Inquirer, attacking Rappler, attacking ABS, no? Kawawa yung ABS din kasi malapit na talaga yung deadline.
Yeah, this is their last year na.
This is their last year before their new version of franchise. So it is, I can imagine that it will take a lot from ABS to get support from Congress to pass the new law awarding them a franchise. But it will be even more, assuming that happens, it will be even more difficult, no, for them to get the president to sign the law. So mahirap. And that's helping, no? So may mga ibang journalists na intimidate din. Pero hindi lang naman 'yun eh. So I'm sure meron din sa simbahan, no? So this attack on the church, this unprecedented filing of sedition, inciting to sedition and related charges against 4 bishops. May mga iba siguro na baka natatakot. So ganyan siya, no? I mean, with I think almost every sector. But what he cannot completely control is the threshold. No? At a certain point, some journalists will say, wala na akong pakialam. If you keep attacking Rappler, ABS, Inquirer, di gagawin na namin yung kailangan namin gagawin. Hindi na kami matatak. I mean, ganun din siguro sa simbahan. There might be several bishops now who might have been enamored with Duterte in the early days, who will think, kilala ko yung mga inablan niya. Well, these are people like exactly what CBCP President Archbishop Valles said. I know these people. I mean, they're
Oo, si Bishop Ong Choco. I was able to talk to him. Sabi niya, hindi ko nga alam eh. I'm a man of peace. Sabi niya.
Totoo yun, no? I mean, Bishop David has said some very strong words because of the EJ case. Archbishop Villegas. Pero si Bishop Ness,
di ba? Oo nga eh.
Talagang out of the blue. Talagang out of the blue. So, kaya siguro yung nakausap ko na parokyano niya, Diocese of Cubao eh. Kaya talagang sama ng loob niya. Sabi niya, bakit naman sinasama yung mga obispo? And this is the guy who voted for Duterte, ha?
Pero yung sinasabi mo na sinasampulan niya, di ba technically ang tawag natin niya yung chilling effect. Di ba? And I think sa media meron na eh. Di ba? Inquirer, Rappler, tapos ABS-CBN. Parang less and less media people are, kumbaga dati we are known, our media, di ba, is known as yung adversarial, di ba, yung maingay daw. Pero ngayon parang hindi na masyadong maingay.
Well, like I said at the start, no, meron pa rin. Siguro baka nga kumonte, pero meron pa rin, no. And so it's important to focus on the good examples. A big part of it is self-censorship, no. Wag na lang natin ilabas, no. But I think there is also a part na we can call calculation. No? Iniisip nila, when is the right time to come out with this? No?
Pero di ba masama na yun when you are, di ba, censoring yourself?
Yung self-censorship, definitely.
Diba?
Definitely. Yung calculating when the right time is, that's part of the news cycle. Isipin mo, kung ilalabas natin ngayon to, walang papansin. Hintayin na lang. So I remember when the Inquirer came out with the expose, the series of exposés on the pork barrel scam, we had held on to it for, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 2 months. We vetted and so on and so forth. When we were ready to run, hinintay talaga ni Mrs. Magsanok when was the right time. But when she finally decided, I think we had 8 straight days na that was the main story. So, so may mga ganun din. I'm hoping that is part of the... that's part of the method. May mga ganyan. But I'm really very encouraged meeting the young journalists, the younger journalists. When Rappler was besieged, no? Dami mga cases.
9 cases ba? Na-interview ko dito si Maria Reza. 11 na pala.
11 yata, no? Tapos may petition no, in support of
Rappler.
no, this is a separate petition because of Pia Ranada. She was not allowed to cover Malacanang. Rappler sued because this is an infringement on press freedom. We won't be able to cover other things, and then we filed a related lawsuit. Ang dami mga young journalists who said, we want to sign up.
Galing,
No?
galing.
Actually, nakakatuwa eh. No? Well, that is, I know it's a cliche, but they are really the future of media.
Very good.
And they're
Oo.
thinking along these lines. They're acting along these lines. Maganda.
Okay, so ako ang ngayon itong ngayon may bago ngayon. They're running after universities naman ngayon. 'Di ba kasi yung academic community isa rin yan sa 'di ba yung they're outspoken, 'di ba? They're also critical, 'di ba, of government, etc. Itong running after ngayon, university, they want police presence. They're seeking police presence in inside campuses. Hindi ba to kasama sa pattern ng
Definitely.
pananahimik sa mga oposisyon?
Definitely.
Diba?
I think if you look at the pattern that includes not only media or political
the church,
opposition, the church, but also the diplomatic community.
Yun, isa pa yun.
The international community.
Yun,
no?
yes.
They have been attacking the European Union, the UN. I honestly wondered when it would be time for them to run after the universities. No? Because in many other countries, governments with authoritarian tendencies will really run after the universities also. Right? It's taken them some time. There was an attempt last year. I think they named, pero ganun din.
Yeah. Yung red tagging. Yeah.
Red tagging, no? But they didn't really, now that you have, let me put it this way. I think they've reached a point where now they are ready to try something orchestrated against the universities. And the first hearing of the Public Order Committee chaired by Senator Bato. I think is proof of that. For the first time, you had mothers saying our children are missing, they have been kidnapped, right? By the left-leaning groups. But they didn't just go there and cry and, they had materials ready. No? They had Facebook posts enlarged. No?
Wow.
They were ready.
Yeah.
No, they were ready. And now I think there's a second hearing that's been scheduled.
Lumabas na yung bata yung anak
lumabas na. Dalawa pa, di ba? Kidnapped and so on. But I think you are right, no? I think that this they will continue on the left tagging and they will use that as the wedge with which to enter the universities.
Wow.
I'm worried about the SUCs because they have less leverage to say no. No?
Yeah.
Maybe some of the bigger ones like UP will be able to say hindi pwede. But some of the smaller ones, where they're part of government, kakausapin sila. So I'm more worried about them. Then, for instance, say private schools. Baka yun yung next wave. But you're right. I think we should be preparing for their intervention in the university.
Two more groups I'll mention. The business sector. Parang tahimik na rin sila. There was a time yung konting political turmoil, meron ng sinasabi ang Makati Business Club. Di ba? May mga statements na nilalabas yan eh. Ngayon, I don't see that.
So, like I said,
nauna ba silang pinatahimik?
With the Phil Webb thing, yes. From the very start. Marami sa kanila are starting, nakita ko nakalagay dun sa wake up, Ben, wake up. Yung sa a lot of them are starting to wake up. I think they realize, for instance, that there is a new crony who is buying up all sorts of businesses. I'm talking about Dennis Uy, very, very powerful guy, highly leveraged.
From Davao, di ba?
From Davao, Phoenix, now started the third telco.
Wow.
Sa marami. So they are starting to wonder, where is the money coming from? How can he continue to do this? But they're not going out and talking about these things. because they have been intimidated. In a way, they have a lot to lose. We all have a lot to lose, no? But sila, they're able to quantify what they will lose in terms of stock price, in terms of assets, and so on and so forth. My sense is that there are many businessmen who are now waking up and thinking, this is no way to... We're going back to the bad old days. No? But they are not ready to mount a frontal offensive.
Correct.
What was the second?
Yung ano ko is, the last one is yung civil society. Parang kahit yung civil society, like, di ba, farmers groups, NGOs, etc. Parang you don't see them also like, yung mga jeepney drivers association, mga ganun, pag ano lang, di ba? But there was a time, pinapatuloy nila lahat ng mga issue, no? Yung creeping authoritarianism. Nagsasalita rin yung mga yan. Pero ngayon parang wala na.
It might be possible that as with the groups I am in touch with, that the elections have forced, midterm elections have forced us to rethink, to review. No? I'm hopeful that babalik uli sa lansangan, sa all sorts of forums, no? Na babalik uli. Pero ngayon, ang nakikita ko, talagang people are recalibrating. No? So what does it mean for us to, for instance, to have what is called woke Twitter or woke Facebook, and yet social media is still dominated by trolls and so on. Well, I mean, so parang maraming there's a lot of soul searching I think going on. The fear factor is still there. I wrote about that dun sa surveys. Parang, is it possible to gauge public opinion in a time of fear? And my answer is that yes, but we cannot rely on just one set of data. No? So we just say, oh, the president is this popular. But we also have to say that the same surveys show that 78% of Filipinos think they or someone they know will be the next victim in EJK. If you think about that, so that was the last taken in December 2018.
That's a lot, 78%. Yeah.
That's a lot, 3/4. And every year, kinukuha nila, and consistent siya. 3/4 of Filipinos say, when you think about that, 3/4, but only 12% say they personally know an EJK victim.
Wow.
So, tapos, kahit gamitin na natin yung pinakamalaking estimate ni President Duterte of drug addiction, we're only looking at what, 4 or 5% of the Philippine population with links to drugs. So 4 to 5% with links to drugs, maybe. 12% with personal knowledge of an EJK. And yet 78% say nangangamba sila that they or someone they know will be the next victim. What does that mean? That means our reality is really much more complicated than, we have a popular president who has a murderous policy. No? Our own surveys show that people are responding to the murders. No? 90% of 90+%, I forget the exact number, of survey respondents say suspects must always be arrested alive.
Yes.
No?
They don't believe yung nanlaban.
In fact, there's a specific statistic for that. No, only between 5 to 9% of Filipinos believe the police.
When they say,
definitely believe the police when the police say they killed someone kasi nanlaban. No, so majority support the war on drugs, and yet between 5 to 9%, only between 5 to 9% say they definitely believe the police. So,
what I'm not able to reconcile with this, yung the fact that he's still getting 80% approval or ano ba yun, trust rating, di ba? Is that out of fear? I don't think it's out of fear. But so how do you explain that this president continues to be popular?
My view is that we're talking about two nations.
Two nations. Okay.
So there is a nation that looks up to him. I've seen the president at work. He is very charismatic.
Yeah.
He can work up a crowd, whether it's a crowd of 50 or 500,000. I was there at his Thanksgiving rally. May X factor talaga siya. And people are responding to that. And also people respond to acts of decisiveness. That's why Isko Moreno is enjoying this honeymoon with the public, because he's seen to be decisive. And the president is seen to be decisive. So nandun din yun. But there's another nation. It's a nation that is anxious about the killings. And it's there. The same surveys show that we are anxious about the killings. That while we trust the PNP, in general terms, as an institution, we do not trust the PNP when they say they killed someone because nanlaban. Parang... So... It's difficult to reconcile.
Kaya nga parang ang hirap i-integrate ng dalawa.
I mean, President Duterte, when he was still a candidate in November 2015, made that joke about the Pope being in the Philippines. Okay? Tapos paglabas niya, galing daw siya sa hotel kasi may kasama daw siyang babae. Paglabas niya, nagulat daw siya, sobrang traffic, so minura niya yung Pope. Okay? No, I think that joke is a setup no? If that's true, he would have been the only adult person to not know that the Pope was in the Philippines. But why did I bring this up? Because that was November 2015. And when he said that joke, in that crowd, nakita mo nagtawanan sila. But only a few months before, the Pope was here. The Pope was here in the same year, January 2015. And alam mo, millions of people went to see him. No? Nag-iiyakan. So yan yung, that is another illustration for what I mean by two nations. No? I think when we went and welcomed the Pope with tears in our eyes, that was us. And yet when we welcomed and laughed at candidate Duterte's joke, cursing the Pope, that's also us. So parang...
Ano yan? Schizophrenic tayo. Okay, I have two more questions. So number one, if you have a bolang crystal, so what do you see in the next 3 years of Duterte? Parang he already gave up on federalism. Is that correct to say?
He was never a true convert to federalism.
Really? Wow.
He became a member of the PDP Laban party only in 2015 because he was already thinking of running for the presidency. So in fact, he told us in August 2015 when he visited us in the Inquirer, the federalism issue was his excuse for getting around the country. No? He was never a true believer.
Talaga.
He was never a true believer. But I think that he certainly wants to change the constitution to protect himself after. Sabi nga ni Churchill, it's hard to make predictions, especially about the future. But my prediction is that the infighting in the administration will actually worsen. I was with a diplomat recently, and I impressed upon in my view that what we're seeing, for instance, with the struggle for the speakership of the House, was that these are all pro-Duterte factions positioning themselves for life after Duterte.
Kasi 3 years na lang.
So it is interesting, for instance, that the people closest to him are not on the same boat. Bongo is his Man Friday. So even a senator still does assistant's work for him. He has his own power base. Bongo was the one pushing for Alan Cayetano. On the other hand, the president's daughter, sometimes they say, the successor and so on and so forth, was pushing for somebody else, Velasco. No? And she was in a temporary alliance with her brother.
Temporary lang,
Pulong Duterte. Pulong has his own agenda. No? And then you have GMA. GMA is a very disciplined politician. She's well loved by politicians. They see her as like the epitome of what a good politician is. They admire her work ethic and all that. and they know that she's capable of making things happen. So there's that group also. So GMA, Inday Sara, Pulong, Bongo, and then there might be still others. No? So my prediction is that we are going to see an intensification of
The cracks
infighting.
will continue to.
So take a look at this. It's an extraordinary event. The executive secretary has filed 3 libel suits against a presidential advisor, si Montulfo. Okay? Because
correct.
Montulfo
Yeah.
has been using his column in Manila Times to attack the executive secretary. No? And the executive secretary has taken this extraordinary step of filing libel suits against. Now they both Medialdea and Tulfo belong to the inner circles.
Wow.
So, lumalabas na yung...
At parang hinahayaan lang ni President, ano? Tahimik siya.
I had the chance to interview Edgar Matubato and Arturo Las Cañas. So, confessed assassins. And one of the things I got from them was that the president encouraged factions. He would offer, it was his way of getting them to work harder. There would be different groups, and he would offer them incentives.
Wow.
Bahala na sila. Bahala, who would outdo the other. But I am not surprised that the president acts this way. But it's like matirang matibay, whoever is coming out. But that's not good for. That wasn't good for the city of Davao. And it's not good for
us.
For us as a country.
Okay, a final question, I guess, is in democratic countries with facing this kind of problem as well, yung resurgence ng dictatorial forces. The question is the pushback. Do you see, in our country any pushback happening? Where will the pushback come from?
I think right now the pushback is coming from individuals. They are individuals like former Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales or former Foreign Secretary Albert Del Rosario. Obviously, individual pushback is not sustainable. You need institutions behind them. I think they are trying to rally, these individuals are trying to rally the people that they can connect with, the business community, civil society, and so on. But that's going to take some time. We were hoping that the Supreme Court would be a beacon of democracy, but that's not turning out. It's not turning out that way. The Senate perhaps can still be. There are still some individuals there who might turn out. So I am not canceling the Senate, not at all. No, we might be surprised. What some of the individual senators will do. This is going to sound strange because I've criticized Tito Soto before, but he actually has a very strong sense of the institutional dignity of the Senate. No, he is very conscious na hindi sila i-echepwera. So when there was an attempt to arrest Senator Trillanes, galit na galit siya that the PNP was already in the parking lot of the Senate without so much as getting permission of the Senate leadership. Galit na galit siya, and that helped steal the resolve of the other senators na hindi tayo magpapaano nito. I mean, whatever we think about Sonny Trillanes, that's no way to treat the Senate. So I am still hopeful that something like that will happen in the Senate. But where will the institutional pushback come from? I'm hoping that after the recalibration, the review after the elections, early next year we can see some concerted action from maybe the opposition, maybe from civil society.
From the church.
Definitely from the church. I will make my own, what that friend of mine said, no? In Cebu. I think the administration has made a fatal mistake, a terrible mistake, no? Filing these charges against the bishop. I hope so. I hope that more Catholics will see this is no way to treat the church.
Okay, so
Bilis ng oras.
oo nga eh. Oo. Thank you so much. Siguro final na lang your message, I guess, to the Ateneo community in all of this, diba? In what's going on.
Yeah, I am very proud of what the Ateneo community, and not just Ateneo de Manila, but the other Ateneos also, have been doing and are continuing to do during these difficult days. I think that the university is a safe space for discussion, but it is also a safe space for advocates to come together to review what they've done before and to steal the resolve, so to speak, for the acts that need to be done in the future. But it is also, lastly, a safe space for journalists and others who support democracy. That is precisely the reason why Father Jet Villarin created space for me here. There are initiatives where we can help encourage journalists do their difficult work in these difficult days.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yan po si John Nery, Atenean. Ayan naman, journalist. And we will see more of him dito sa Ateneo now that he's part of the faculty. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Father Nono. Thank you.
Okay, hanggang bukas po. Bukas we will have as guest Father Junjun Bores to talk about death penalty now that it's being revived again. Okay, so abangan niyo po yan bukas dito lamang sa The Jesuit Hour. Thank you so much and pasensya na po hindi na natin nabati ang mga nanonood sa atin and sana po patuloy kayong manood sa amin. Hanggang bukas, this is Father Nono Alfonso SJ. Thank you.
The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.